What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, in Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. Have a great episode planned for you all today. Going to talk about some of the wild card teams, those situations in each conference. But before we get into that, we're actually going to talk about the Raiders deciding to bench Derek Carr. But before we talk about all the great football things that are going around the league, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I've been better. I've been,
I know, Matt.
yeah, tough couple days. Couldn't make the live yesterday. You guys were talking about it. All the pipes in my house burst in Cincinnati. The video of it, it's like raining in the house. It sucked. So I spent all day yesterday driving down there and cleaning that stuff and moving the fish we have that they made it. So that's good.
Hey,
but like it's pretty.
You could have just put them in the kitchen, had them swim around like all sorts of places.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it's not so bad. Less stuff than you would think got ruined. I mean, even some of like the fridge still works. My friend in one of his rooms had this TV, but it didn't get messed up because all the water got trapped between the drywall and the paint. So there's like this big water bubble, but the TV itself was okay.
I imagine repairing the drywall is going to be more expensive than getting a new TV.
Well, the drywall was going to be messed up anyway.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah. I know it's bad. I mean, dude, part of the ceiling fell on the stove and cracked it and took a big chunk out of it. It's kind of funny.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. No, it was bad. But I live on the top floor and my computer is okay, which is how I'm here now. So that's good. Yeah. And somehow nobody's mattress got wet. We went 3 for 3 on nobody's mattress getting soaked. But I spent all day yesterday doing that, driving to Cincinnati, cleaning the house, driving back. But it'll be livable in like a week and it'll be all good in like a month. So
that's good.
I'm okay.
I feel pretty lucky. Because of all the havoc that's been flying around in this country or right now. And I've been having to get me home and my girlfriend Cammie home from Minnesota to Arizona, and like that could totally be a disaster with everything that's happened. You hear these stories about people sitting on flights for 13 hours.
Yeah.
And I have not. Yeah, but I had a pretty smooth travel day. Like there's a couple things, like my gate got changed and it was kind of confusing, and I had a flight that got delayed a couple hours, but overall it was pretty comfortable, and nothing totally got ruined over the holidays in terms of the weather. It was just really cold in Minnesota. And then I got back to Flagstaff yesterday. Beautiful night in Flag. It was like 45 degrees, just, great temperature. Just, have my coat, just kind of walking around. And then overnight it snowed about 8 inches. And we woke up this morning to like this winter wonderland. I drive back to my apartment and all the power is out. So I have to record this podcast elsewhere, and we'll see how the internet does at the place I'm at right now. And at least my house isn't flooded. So, and my
thanks,
ceiling
buddy. I'm glad to hear everything's going perfect for you.
Onto my, well, it's going bad, but it could always, I could
you
be
can always be me.
Things could also be worse.
Well,
it could always be worse. I could be Matt.
It doesn't get much worse than that, man. So it's
it doesn't get much worse than that.
You're both struggling a little bit right now. I did see that.
I could be Matt. I could be Derek Carr.
You could be Derek Carr. You could lose your. That's true. He's still getting paid though, so it could be, even for Derek Carr, it could be worse. No, I know. I saw this morning that Southwest Airlines is getting sued because they had 158,000 flights get canceled.
Well, is that because of the weather?
Yeah.
Well,
what the hell are they going to do?
There's like
they were the only ones who did it.
No, because they had like more cancellations than everyone else. So it was there's like some investigation going on with Southwest
Airlines, unless they're considering sponsoring the show. In which case, I love Southwest Airlines, but I don't know. I
Yeah, we all have to defend Southwest. Southwest, I flew and it was terrible. All those Southwest passengers should be glad that those planes were on the ground.
Facts.
They don't know how bad it was up there. It wasn't bad at all. You could have totally flown, at least through whatever passage I went down.
Yeah.
But it could be worse. It could always be worse.
It could always be worse. You could always get benched for Jarrett Stidham. That's the moral of the story here.
You could, yeah.
Is the Derek
I don't really
Carr
know what to
saga
make
over?
of that.
Is it
I mean,
over?
like,
I think it's totally unfair. I think it's totally unfair. I think that it's like gross mismanagement of the team. Derek Carr loves the Raiders more than any quarterback loves his team. That guy is crying during press conferences. He's talking about like, I'll retire if I don't play for the Raiders. Like that guy loves to play for the Raiders. And he hasn't been like that bad. You expected it to be better. You really did. But this offense is like, I looked it up. It's 14th in yards picked up per drive. It's 11th in points per drive, and Carr is 11th in EPA per drop back. Like, maybe you expected him to be top 10 with Devontae Adams of the year he had last year, but to say like, oh, this is benchable is pretty messed up. Like, to not give him a year to maybe like figure some things out, because they've been unlucky with the record this year with all the blown leads, and a lot of the blown leads haven't even been his fault. Like the one against the Rams, for example. There was the pick that he threw at the end of the first half was pretty bad. But he only got to throw it like 6 times the entire second half. How could it be his fault? Right? He didn't do anything. Like they didn't give him they just ran it up the middle, even though it wasn't working, and the defense couldn't get off the field. So like, that's not his fault. And a lot of these comebacks and whatever, like the second half of games have been bad for them. And that's slightly on him for sure. He hasn't been as sharp as he has been in the past. I do think that, there's definitely plays that he hasn't played up to his standards, but to say like, oh man, we're going to cut him, we're going to bench him, we're not going to let him finish out the season. And that's the book on McDaniels it's not a very secret thing that he doesn't like manage people well. And he is kind of an ego. And to me, that's what this move feels like, is he's just like, I don't care about, I'm sure all the Raiders fans are pissed off at this move. I'm sure that the Raiders players like Carr are pissed off at this. Like, it just feels like I'm going to put in my New England guy because Stidham's from New England. It just feels like, I coached him. He can do a better job than Carr. And I'll tell you, if he does, I'll take it all back. Good job, McDaniels. But I bet he can't. And I bet, like, of all the things that have happened this season, this one feels the most gross from McDaniels. It's such a him thing to do.
I don't know. They're in a tough spot. I mean, if they want to go get a new quarterback, I guess they don't want to guarantee Carr all this money. I've seen that thing. It's like he's getting this big guarantee if he's not cut by February or whatever it is. I don't know where they're going to find another guy unless they're like really committed to drafting like Levis or Richardson or Stroud or whoever. But they're not. I mean, they're not going to have like a top 5 pick, and there's definitely not any better options out there than Carr. They've had a very weird season. You know how many games they've played that were not single score? 2.
Like 2?
Yes, 2.
Nice.
Literally 2 the entire season. Yeah. So I think, the record is bad, but I agree it's like there's totally a world
they're not even
where
eliminated from. They're not even eliminated from the playoffs right now. Right. Like they're not eliminated. They're not going to make it, obviously, but they're not even eliminated.
Yeah,
like
they're going to be.
Your offense is like average. Carr is playing average. It's all average. You wanted it to be great, and it's average, and that's disappointing. But again, there's a reason to think like with some better luck next year, it could all be better. And I guess I get maybe the sense like Carr isn't the guy. Like Carr long term, we're not going to win a Super Bowl with this guy. He's won 1 playoff game in his career. Like, let's draft a guy. Let's get the rookie contract. Like, that opens our window more than Derek Carr does. And I guess I understand that, but I still think it's messed up not to let him finish the season after everything he's given this franchise, to just kind of bench him for your New England guy. From just a person management standpoint, that's dumb. And it's not like you have the number 1 overall pick. So they're probably going to have to trade up. And how does Davante Adams take this? Right. That's the other question. Because Davante he's very vocal about it. Like, I love Derek Carr. So yeah, I think it's messed up. And I kind of get the logic, like moving on from Carr. Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but
listen,
I would say,
I don't know.
I would say that I am not as worried about the Davante Adams stuff as maybe you have been all season, because like, what would he do?
Right.
What, like, okay, we're going to move on from Carr. Well, then I'm not playing. Well, we can't trade you, really. I mean, you have so much guaranteed money unless someone's taking that on, which I guess somebody would, but like, he's locked in. They could just be like, no. I mean, teams have leverage in that situation. I guess I do get it. You know, I agree that Carr is not the guy who's going to win you a Super Bowl, but it would have been nice to let him play one more game at least before you're eliminated, and then be like, we're going to see what Stidham has for one game.
And
I know
it's
that's
a home
minor
game,
difference.
right? It's a home game. This is their last home game, right? Like,
I have no idea.
Let them finish. I think it's they're hosting the Niners.
I bet they
let them finish it out in front of the fans. Like, I feel like one thing that gets.
I'm not concerned about. Go ahead, Blaine. My bad.
One thing that I think.
No, keep going. I'm sorry.
One thing that gets, one thing that gets forgotten about is just how much a quarterback that is liked in the locker room matters, right? That atmosphere that Derek Carr brings of like being the leader of the Raiders. You're not going to find that in Jared Stidham. You're not going to find that in CJ Stroud if that's your guy, and then you have to trade up for him. Like, Derek Carr is the Raiders. The face of the Raiders is Derek Carr, and that matters.
That's kind of more where I'm concerned about the Devontae stuff. Isn't so much like, oh, he's going to get up in the lead. He'll follow Derek Carr to Washington, wherever he goes. Who knows? I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think that, behind closed doors, he would say like, yo, Derek, that was messed up how coach did you like that.
Yeah.
Like, and now all of a sudden your star wide receiver is like
checked out.
Damn, that head coach, like, did something bad to my friend Derek Carr. Now I don't like him. Like, that is a very,
I'll give you that.
And that's kind of where I'm more concerned is like, and then next year they start 0-4 or something because they're throwing, who knows? They're throwing Michael Penix Jr. out there at quarterback, and they get or they're throwing Stidham. They're throwing Stidham out there at quarterback, and they're 0-4, and then Adams makes the big stink because it's all been brewing. Like it's something. It's a straw on the camel's back. It might be a bale of hay on the camel's back, but it just gets you. There could be a point where this all blows up, or Devontae wants it like down the line, and it could all start here.
Well, I would.
That's where I'm concerned. Not that he's going to be like, I need to go back to Green Bay immediately. Like, I don't think that's what he's going to say, but
I would say that one of the things that maybe we're not looking at right now is that this move is not good or bad yet until Stidham plays. And what I would say is that this move does not look so bad if he plays well. The problem is that you are throwing him in against the 49ers, which is a terrible idea. If they were like waiting a week and then it's like the last week, it's like, we just want to see what he has. I think that's more acceptable. If you bench Derek Carr, which I'm not so bought into the idea, it's like, well, Carr's the Raiders locker room guy, so you can't move on from him. You get the best quarterback you can. He's the locker room's guy because he's the best quarterback on the team. But yeah, if you take out Derek Carr while you're not eliminated from the playoffs and he goes and plays terribly, which is a very real possibility, especially considering the defense that he has, you look like an idiot. You look like a dummy, and the players will care about that, and they will respect you less for that. So I guess I don't disagree with moving off of Carr. I disagree with benching him right now.
And I disagree with, like, maybe Stidham will blow it up, but like, is Stidham really your answer? He's a career backup. He was a 3rd round pick. It's not like Rodgers to Love, right? Where Love was drafted to be the franchise guy. And like, maybe if the Packers didn't have any kind of path, like maybe if they were still mathematically there, but it's a 0.001% chance, even if they went out, like, then maybe you see what Love has, even though they're not technically eliminated, because Love is always he was always meant to be the franchise guy, but that's not really the case with Stidham. So I guess if Stidham like lights it up, but even if he does light it up, are you really going to go into next year with Stidham? Like, I don't know. And maybe it's good to get him a game against a really good defense, just so you know, like,
right.
Hey, this is what he looks like against a really good defense instead of this is what he looks like against a really bad defense, because that gives you just a little bit more information. But I'm just kind of against the idea of like going into next year with Stidham as your number one guy when you've got a roster with Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller and Colton Miller and Max Crosby and Chandler Jones and Nate Hobbs and all these guys who are pretty good. Like, that's not a Stidham type of situation. Yeah, that's a rookie type of situation, like a promising young rookie type of situation, or unless they really believe in Stidham. And then I look like an idiot if Stidham turns out to be the next Dak Prescott, the 3rd round pick. But Dak was a starter right away.
Dak started right away and was good
stupid.
Right away. Like, I don't see.
Yeah, and Josh McDaniels doesn't have this long track record of like amazing personnel decisions or amazing people skills. So he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. Like, well, it worked last time when he started Tebow or whatever. I guess he got to the playoffs with Tebow, but like, I don't know. Who knows? I think it's stupid. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. I mean, they're not mathematically eliminated, but the odds that they make the playoffs is still really low. So, I mean, from that perspective, I guess I can understand, like, you know, I think Chandler Jones is out and, is it Perriman? Is Perriman out too?
I don't even know if that matters to me. I think if you're not eliminated, you play your best guys.
Maybe. I can see, like, they're like, okay, yeah, Denzel Perriman's out. You know, Rock Yassine's questionable. Chandler Jones is doubtful. Like, you're missing a lot of guys already. It's like, man, do we really want to put all of our chips in here? And then we get, it's like, I don't know. I can understand it. I can kind of understand it, but it just...
The logic is we're not going to have Carr next year. We don't think that we can win a Super Bowl with him. Fine. We'll give Stidham 2 games just so we just know what we've got and we can just go into the offseason with very clear eyes. And I get, like... I could see it. It makes sense when you lay it out that simply, but I just think, like, Carr, with where you're picking in the draft and with the caliber of quarterback Carr is, and with the season you've had, and I think there's reason to believe that it gets a little better. I just don't know if they're going to go into 2022 with a quarter, or 2023 with a quarterback better than Carr. I don't predict that's going to happen. I don't think the path is there unless they think they can go get Lamar or something. But I think they're going to downgrade at quarterback this offseason, and I think they're not handling this correctly. That's just kind of where I'm at. So it's
fair.
That's where I'm at.
Completely valid. Well, do you want to take a look at Theo, me and you talked a little bit about the AFC playoff picture on the live. Matt, I kind of want to, you know, gauge your vision on this. So the Dolphins right now have the 7th seed, right? The other teams that
think
really
the Dolphins are a lock. I don't agree with that at all.
I don't think they're a lock. I don't think they're a lock.
Blaiden,
but I do.
Blaiden, I heard you say they were a lock. I listened to this live.
I know, but I went and looked at, like, the playoff machine after. I'm like, okay, I still think they have, like, pretty good odds because really only them and the Patriots control their own destiny, right? If either of those teams just win out, they're in, right? That's the Patriots and the Dolphins. But, like, the Jets have a very reasonable path to get in, and the Steelers, I think, have a decently reasonable path to get in. They need more stuff to happen.
They just went out and they're in, right?
Unless the Patriots win out.
Okay,
if the Patriots win out and the Jets win out, then...
Okay, so there's very real possibilities to the Dolphins missing the playoffs.
Yeah. So I don't think they're a lock anymore.
Playing around with it, I had the Jets as the 7th seed. I had the Jets as the 7th seed when I was playing around with the playoff machine. I look at the Dolphins. Tua, I mean, that situation is so grossly fucked that, like, I just don't think he's going to play again this year. If he gets a 4th concussion in a year, like, it would be a complete disaster. Like, I just don't even think you can take that chance.
3 is already
how many he's
a
had
disaster.
This year. 3 is 3 too many. 4 is just like you're really, really starting to have some conversations about like if you're ever going to have this guy again. So I honestly think their defense isn't that good. First of all, their secondary is not that good. They're like Xavier Howard's having a bit of a down year. Like Kader Kohu, God bless him, is an undrafted free agent who's played like decently well this season, but like they're not like reliably able. They lead the league in man coverage this year, and they don't quite have the guys to pull that off right now. And they're allowing like they're near the bottom of the league in defense right now. Plus their offense. Yeah. Now we're going to go with the backup quarterback, and it's kind of fallen off a bit here at the end anyway. And they're playing like 2 of the best defenses in the league in the Jets and the Patriots. And I just don't think they're going to be able to get off the ground really on offense. I think everything, the vibes are bad. It's all about getting hot at the end, and they're ice cold right now in every single facet. I honestly think the Dolphins are about to lose out to the Patriots and the Jets because of how good those defenses are. That's my prediction. I don't know if you guys feel differently what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, with Tua being out, it's looking pretty unlikely that the Dolphins make it at this point. Yeah, I don't know, Matt. Where do you stand? Who do you think?
I was saying, I think Teddy Bridgewater's really bad, and I think their defense really sucks. Yeah, I do. I think Teddy Bridgewater he was not good. And now you're going up against a Patriots defense that is, very tough to go against, and a Jets defense that's very tough to go against. It's not an easy path out, and they've played both those teams before. It's very difficult for them. And I agree. It's like if I were a Dolphins player, I would be demoralized. I don't know. I don't have like all of the scenarios in front of me. Like, can they win one game and get in, or do they need to go? They can win one game.
They can win one game. So if the Patriots, if they lose to the Patriots, which if Teddy's out, or if they have Teddy playing in this game, they probably will lose that one. They need to beat the Jets. That's basically the story. They absolutely need to beat the Jets, but there's also,
and Tua could be back for that game. It's not a lock that
he could be
the whole season.
I think Tua going back in would be, I agree with you. Like, I think there's no chance. That would be I guess I don't know. I think there is no way they're putting him back in.
Yeah. This medical staff and coaching staff, though, I don't know if I'd put it past them. Like,
yeah, I guess that's true.
Grossly mismanaged him. I honestly think he might just say, fuck you guys, and leave after the season. You tampered to get Tom Brady to replace me. You tried to get Deshaun Watson to replace me. And then you keep putting me in these dangerous situations, diagnosing me with concussions after I played the whole half, setting me up to fail by not detecting this, and putting me in for a 4th quarter where I threw 3 picks and like ruined everything. Like, it's just been miserable. It's been miserable, but I do think I don't know if he'll do that, because I don't know if he's that type of dude. And I do think that he likes McDaniels for kind of resurrecting the career a bit. So I don't know, but he has just had such a rough go of it.
It's been brutal for him. It really has. So yeah, if the Patriots beat the Dolphins this week, right, and the Jets beat the Seahawks I'm just like as a pencil in, then the Patriots lose to the Bills and the Dolphins beat the Jets. The Dolphins are in the playoffs.
Gotcha. Well,
okay.
So
I have the Jets in the playoffs. I think, because Mike White is coming back. I don't know what you guys feel about Mike White. My take on him is he's not a playmaker, but I think they can beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks line is so bad right now. Their guards don't get any push in the run game. Like, they're pretty one-dimensional at the moment, and they don't really have a third wide receiver who can separate. So they could, like, the Chiefs did a really good job on the back end, kind of taking away Metcalf and Lockett, or I don't even know if Lockett played. But there was a lot of Laquan Treadwell. There was a lot of there's a lot of Goodwin. There's a lot of like I don't think Lockett played. My bad. And I just don't think the Seahawks quite have the guys. Like, I don't think Geno has really fallen off for them. I think that he's still playing at a decent level right now. Maybe not as good as he was earlier, but there's just not enough guys around him. Like, I really think that Jets defense is going to shut them down and the Dolphins down. And I think when it comes to Mike White, I know they're on a 4-game losing skid. I know that Mike White has played some of these games, but I do think that I'm always impressed by his reaction time and like him looking at receivers and looking and throwing like in almost one motion. And he's pretty tall and he rips it over the middle. Like, I think the quarterback play is going to be good enough that they win these next 2 games. And I think the Jets get in. If you, I don't know if you guys have played with this scenario, the playoff machine and all, and have like your 14.
It's
but
basically going to come down to the Jets Dolphins game. It's basically going to come down to Week 18 Jets versus Dolphins for who gets in. And then also, I mean, if the Bills lock up the 1 seed this week, then which would basically require the Broncos to beat the Chiefs, which I doubt happens. Then I could see a scenario in which the Patriots beat the Bills and get in. But for the most part, I lean towards it's going to come down to Dolphins versus Jets. And if Tua plays in that game, I could see the Dolphins winning it. But if it's Teddy, Matt, yeah, I can definitely. That could be a disaster for the Dolphins, and it could be a Jets playoff run.
Yeah, I would.
Well, the Broncos will beat the Chiefs because the Broncos will beat them because they have an interim head coach, which is something we could also talk about. But they have an interim head coach. They're winning that game anyway.
They just got beat by 40 by Baker Mayfield and the Rams. Man, I would keep it a buck with you. I don't think they're winning this game.
I agree. I think the Jets probably have the best chance since they're playing back-to-back not great defenses.
I don't think he's that good, but I honestly trust their offense with Mike White more than I trust the Patriots offense. And that's kind of, I don't know if I think I trust the Dolphins offense more even without Tua than maybe the Jets with Mike White because of the scheme, because of the weapons they have. Like, I get that it's going to be a bit rough, but before the Tua maybe suffered that concussion, potentially, maybe this is speculation, but like when he was playing in the first half, like it was 20 yards per attempt. So I guess I trust even with Bridgewater, I might trust the Dolphins offense the most, but their defense the least. I trust the Patriots offense the least because of their play calling and the fact they've got Matt Patricia doing it. And I trust the Jets defense the most, I think. And then their offense the second most. And their schedule is, I think, a bit easier because they don't have the 2 great defenses. So yeah, I think it'll be the Jets. I think it was always the Jets. And then somehow Mike White will go down again and we're going to get a Mike White playoff game or a Zach Wilson playoff game where he has to roll into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. And it's going to be the worst game ever played. So yeah, that's my prediction for the AFC. And it seems like we're all in agreement.
I don't feel that strongly about it because you're just predicting a couple of NFL games though.
Yeah. But taking a look at the NFC, Matt, your Panthers are still in contention. They still have hope. Do you believe that there is a chance that they can take the 4th seed away from Tampa? They just have to beat the Bucs, right? That's what we talked about before. They have to beat the
Saints too. They have to win out.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they have to beat the Saints. Yeah, because you have the same record.
They're not going to make the playoffs. For the record, nor would the consequences of making the playoffs do them any good. Then people would be like, we should run it back with essentially the same team and coach and quarterback and all the same stuff. And you'd be like, yeah, well, they made the playoffs, but like they had a losing record. Like obviously it's pretty fluky. And people would say,
but they made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs still though.
They beat
playoffs is playoffs, baby. They're good. And then they'd be married to, not being serious about the quarterback position for another year. I mean, the Panthers are good at some stuff, though. I mean, they beat Tampa, but I think ultimately what kills them, J.C. Horn is out. So,
yeah.
I mean, are they like who is going to be on Mike Evans? They just signed Josh Norman. Okay, so I have very little faith in them. I think that they do a good job against teams with bad run defenses. Their offensive line is very good. I think ultimately They probably won't pull it off. I also don't care. I think whichever team makes it will probably lose to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at this game and so you're going to make the Bucs can't run the football, but it's not going to matter because the secondary is so bad without JC Horn. It's just going to be atrocious, right? That's probably what this game looks like is 8 carries for Leonard Fournette and they win anyway. Like that's 8 for Lenny, 5 for Rashad White, and final score. It's like 24 to like 14 or something like that. The Panthers are an interesting team. They're near the top of the league. They might be at the top of the league in the percent of times they stack the box. They play with really heavy boxes usually, which means just less guys in the secondary anyway. So if you play that way without JC Horn, I think it's just going to be kind of a disaster. But they really are going to make them one-dimensional. They really are going to make the Bucs one-dimensional. There's just no way against Derek Brown and this run defense, which isn't like the best run defense in the entire league or anything, but they do stack the box and it is all right. Like maybe if Brady's throws some bad picks, like they'll have a chance. The Bucs run defense isn't anything super special right now. They stack the box a lot too. They've got a lot of guys like committed to defending the run, and they're not bad at it, but they're just average even with all those extra resources. So there definitely is a world where, you know, that you can run the ball on this team, but you can't really punish them through the air for these lighter boxes with Darnold. And I just think Horn is kind of an insurmountable thing. Obviously Matt is correct there. So
losing your best player is never a good sign. Tampa, Brady will be back in the playoffs once again. We hate to see it, but
honestly, I'm rooting for them to make the playoffs.
Really?
I want the Buccaneers to do it because, I'd rather see Brady in the playoffs than Darnold. I'd rather see Mike Evans and this offense that could maybe sometimes like put something together than the Panthers. I'm sorry for entertainment value and for my preseason predictions.
Oh, okay.
I would rather get one extra thing right, which is the Bucs winning this division.
And then we get to see
Matt.
Dak beat Brady in the playoffs, and that's great for all the Dak narratives. So,
yeah, I'd like to see a Dak win in the playoffs. I am a Dak fan, so yeah, I am rooting for the entertainment value, and I think that the Bucs, although the Bucs are miserable to watch, neither of these teams are. It's a bad division. It's a bad division, but that's not the wild card.
It's not the wild card, but I thought it would be worth noting. You know who is in the wild card, though?
It is.
Theo's Green Bay Packers, potentially. They're in the race, at least.
Yeah.
7-8, behind Detroit, behind Seattle, behind Washington, and behind the Giants.
Yeah, but all they need to do is they need to win their next 2 games, and then they just need Washington to lose one of their games. So it's not impossible.
No, it's
not. A bit tough to say how they'll match up with the Vikings. Obviously, the Packers game was the Vikings' only like quality win this year that wasn't by one possession. Like that's the one where they soundly beat a team was against the Packers in week 1. And I don't know, man. Like even against the Dolphins, like that game was agonizing to watch. I can't believe we won that game because the whole time it was Tua's picking up 20 yards pass until like he hits his head, and now all of a sudden he's just throwing it directly to our guys. The offense was frustrating the entire time. Rodgers honestly wasn't playing well. Like against the Rams, they only put up 21 points. Like they've turned it around a little bit. They've strung some wins together, but like against the Bears, they were losing the whole game. And then towards the end, they finally made the comeback. Like as bad of an 11 or a 12-3 team that the Vikings are, like the Packers are they're a worse team. They're a worse roster. They're a worse squad. So I kind of think they're going to lose this weekend. And I think for the NFC, just playing around with the playoff machine, I ended up with just the Giants and Washington keeping their spots is what I had. I think Washington can beat the Browns.
I agree.
And the Giants schedule, they can beat the Colts. Like it's really not that tough for those two teams. I think the Lions are going to lose to one of their next two, whether that be to the Bears or the Packers. Those are both teams that can run the football. They're top 10 in rushing success rate. The Bears are like a top 5 team rushing the football. Like they're really good. There's maybe the Baltimore Ravens are better than them in a lot of metrics, but that's really about it. And the Panthers just ran all over them. I think like one of those two teams is going to be able to pound the rock like the Panthers didn't beat the Lions. So, and I think the Lions and Vikings aren't free wins for the Packers. I mean, they lost to those teams the first two things. So I honestly think it's just going to be Washington and New York. If you lose
to the Vikings,
keeping their spots,
you basically screw yourself. Like you would need the Lions to lose out. You would need the Commanders to lose out. You would need Seattle to lose. Like so much would have to go your way. The Minnesota game is so crucial. And so, I mean, so is the Detroit game, but like it all starts this week and like, good Lord. I mean, Minnesota's still a great team.
They need to win the Minnesota game, but
yeah.
And then they could lose to the Lions. So I just don't know if I see the Packers going 2-0 over this stretch because the Lions aren't an easy team. They're not. Like, yes, the run game is like okay for the Packers, but it's not like it wasn't good enough to beat them the first time around. So
right.
Yeah, we'll see how it is. And that's also true for the Bears. The Lions are 2-0 against the Packers and Bears so far. So it's definitely possible, but I do think they're going to drop one of their next two. That's just kind of where my head is at with them. But I don't know what you guys think of the Giants, if maybe their roster is just too bad to win anything going forward. But
well, they play the Colts this week.
That's my thoughts.
And the Colts also stink. So like they can they can
starting
beat
Nick
the Colts,
Foles, right?
Yeah, and he just threw 3 picks against the Chargers.
Yeah, man.
I'm hoping that game was hilariously bad. I haven't seen a quarterback like look that washed in a long time.
Yeah,
it
was gross. So yeah, I mean they'll probably beat the Colts. The Commanders are the interesting one, I think, because with Carson Wentz, we know is not going to win consecutive games. Like he will almost certain, like they will probably lose to Dallas, and then it's a matter of do they beat the Browns? Maybe they beat the Browns, but also the Browns have a great rushing attack. But then the Commanders also have a great defensive line.
But it's fallen off since it's fallen off. It's not great anymore with Watson.
There's apparently
because they're running triple option. They're running option and like
the Browns have run like 3 different offensive styles. You've seen it, Matt? That like
the one where they're like the analytics guys in there, like calling all of like what they need to do for Stefanski.
The Browns like don't run the ball in like 3rd and short because the analytics say that it's not an efficient play. So they'll throw it on like 3rd and 1.
Analytics strikes again.
Analytics strikes again. Yeah, everyone's saying fire Stefanski.
I have not seen this report. That's fascinating to me.
It's really weird because it's like I've seen so many people say that the Browns need to fire Stefanski. And
running on 3rd and 1 is an efficient play.
It is
like not to the analytics.
Maybe it was like 3rd and 4. Maybe it was like 3rd and 4 or something. I don't know. But even still, you have Nick Chubb and the best guard duo in football. I'm running trap like every play, but it's ridiculous. I don't understand it. So the Browns will probably lose if they keep calling games the way they have been.
That's crazy. That's crazy to do. Look,
and
here's the thing about I'm for analytical like decisions when it comes to 4th down and like go for it, be aggressive. That's all good. But for every single play, because then just you're predictable. Like obviously you're gonna all of a sudden the numbers that you have for and like all the data that has come into this decision, right, has been data from plays where that come from coaches making the decision and not analytics guys making the decision. Right. Because when you're calling the pass and there's a report out on you that you call pass on 3rd and 4, because that's what the analytics say to do, all of a sudden when you're predictable, the numbers are all completely different, right? Like when the situation has changed and none of your numbers are relevant anymore because you are doing things differently. And it's not just a play call. It's now a play call that people know is coming because you just go by this book. And if the other team has that book and they do, they can just say, hey, analytics guy, what are the Browns going to do here? What does it say? So all of a sudden, all your numbers are useless and you're just it's going to reverse. All of a sudden now rushing is going to be more efficient than passing.
Which in the Browns case,
sometime
it
soon.
is anyway.
Which it is. Yes.
Like running the ball is almost always the more efficient option for the Cleveland Browns. Oh my God.
Right. Yes, that is the thing. But the other thing they're doing is just they're running triple option. Like they're having like this mesh point. They're having like Watson read things out. They're like hesitating. And it's like, bro, just if you're going to hand it off to Chubb, hand it off to Chubb. Like don't make him like stop his feet at this mesh point and just kind of like have this read out process where he doesn't have this full head of steam going forward anymore. Like they're not good at triple option. They're not good at read option.
Yeah.
Like Watson isn't this electric athlete right now. Like they're not good at it, but their offense was fine for Watson before Watson came in. It's like, oh, they're running lots of empty. There's not much play action in it right now. Like they're having the quarterback play point guard, and that's what you want to add Watson to. Like that's fine. And now it's just like we're gonna run a offense for Chris Streveler with option and like pitches and RPO. This is a Chris Streveler offense. If you have an elite quarterback like Watson, or someone who was at least, one you'd hope to be elite
like, skill
just
set.
have him read things out and right. Like that's what he should. If you're getting 2020 Watson, which is probably what you should be like, you shouldn't be running read option. You should. I don't know, man. Yeah. So I think Washington is going to beat them because I don't think they have an identity. I don't think they know what they're doing with Watson right now. And I think Watson is very rusty. So, and I think like Washington has one of the top defenses. Yeah. So I think Washington is getting one more. Maybe they lose to Dallas, but I think Washington is getting one more. I think the Giants are going to win because their schedule is easy. And I think the only
thing that could cost Washington is if you just get a Carson Wentz, like one of those Carson Wentz bozo games, and he has like 3 awful interceptions, 1 or 2 go back for 6 points, and all of a sudden,
so like what happened last year. You're describing what happened last year.
Literally what happened last year when they should have made the playoffs and they just needed to win one of their next 2 games and they lost both of them. And both are very winnable games, but actually the Dallas game is probably not going to be, but the Cleveland game they should win that one. But yeah, I think the Commanders and Giants probably should get in. The Seahawks I could see. Like, of all these schedules, I think that play out. Like the Giants have the Colts, and that's a good winnable game. The Commanders have Cleveland, but there's a world in which Carson Wentz just collapses. The Seahawks have the Jets, which we've kind of talked about. That game could I feel like go kind of either way. And then they have the Rams. I mean, if they can win out in those games, that really puts them in good standing, especially if the Commanders lose. So I wouldn't completely.
Do you think they will beat the Jets?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like their defense, I don't know if their defense quite has the juice. That might be the one concern.
You mean their offense?
I mean,
do you mean their offense or their defense? Because it could be both.
It could be both. It could be both. Yeah, because I mean, is Tyler Lockett still out? If Tyler Lockett's still out and their offense just really hasn't been great. Their defense, I mean, outside of a few guys like Woolen and Nwosu, like they could very easily be cooked. But at the same time, the Jets
the wild card right now is a bunch of teams that are trending down. It's kind of hard to predict who's going to buck that trend and finish out strong.
Yeah, because the Jets are on a 4-game losing streak, and their offense hasn't scored more than 20 points in like 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever.
And everybody kind of has middling paths to it as well. I mean, you look at like the Packers path is not that easy. You're talking about like the Jets and the Patriots and the Dolphins. None of them really have it like easy. The Seahawks, they don't really have it like easy. They've got real games to play.
Yeah.
Of all the wild card teams, maybe of the Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, Washington, New York, Green Bay, like all the teams we've talked about on this podcast so far. Do you think any of them can win a first round game?
Oh yeah, it's one game. I disagree with the concept of that question. Yeah, it's the NFL. It's one game.
Okay. Do you think it matters? Do you think it matters, I guess, is maybe the better way to phrase that? Like who gets in and who doesn't? Like, is there a team that, if you let them in right now, like maybe Miami, like they're the team that to me, like at their peak could be a tier above these other ones just because of the highs we've seen them reach at points this season. But it hasn't been they haven't reached those highs against any good teams. So like, I don't even know if what we're talking about really is going to matter after the first round.
I don't think the Giants really stand too great of a chance. Right now, they'd be set up to go against San Francisco. I think they would get cooked. Washington, though, with their defense, they could go toe-to-toe with Minnesota. They have beaten the Eagles already.
I can't believe Washington is messing around with the quarterback position this late into the season. Just throw Heineke out there, man. Jesus Christ. I think the team that is most likely to win one would be the Lions. I like the Lions. The Lions.
Okay. That's fair.
And I think in the world where the Lions are the 7th seed, they could beat the Vikings. That could happen.
Yeah,
because
they crushed them.
The Vikings can't run, which is how you expose the Lions. The Lions have the Lions offense is up and down, but they have the ability to go out and put up points. I think that would be the game where you're like, if I were the Vikings, I'd rather play the Giants. I'd probably rather play the Commanders.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Lions were straight up favored in that game, and then they covered the spread. Yeah. So yeah, you're definitely right about that, Matt, that it's probably them. It is probably them, or whoever really plays the Vikings in the first.
That's the thing is playing
round
the Vikings are on first round exit watch.
They're on no matter watch. I hate to say it.
I see a lot of the Packer fans. There's some Packer fans who just cannot stand like that the Vikings are doing this good, and they're like, look at the like expected wins. They've only got 8 of them. This team is so lucky, and like it's kind of annoying to see because it's like, well, yeah, like every Viking fan knows that. They all like no Viking fan is under this like illusion that they're just this juggernaut team. Like they know they're just by the skin of their teeth. Yeah. So with that being said, like, yeah, they are extremely lucky and a little bit fraudulent. Like I think everyone knows that. And I don't think Packers fans just keep saying it. They're like over and over and over again. They're like, oh my God, they won all these 1-score games, like da 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 da. It's like, yeah, everyone knows, dude. We get it. They're 14-3. Like they are at the end of the day. We all know that they're not the best 14-3 team ever. Who do you think would win, this Vikings team or the 11-0 Steelers from a couple years ago?
This Vikings team.
This Vikings
that 11-0 Steelers team, like straight up did not pass. What happened to that 11-0 Steelers team is like, this happens too. I think this is one of the more interesting things that happens. Quarterbacks get so old that their arm starts to give out during the season. Like it's like a pitcher. Like they can't get through the year. It happened really bad to Big Ben that season. His arm went kaput, and they like could not throw deep. And I forget who else. Maybe like Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, but that was just like there were just years where it's like, oh, he's not.
That happened to Drew Brees in like 2017, and he just kept playing.
Right. So in the playoffs, I would take the Vikings pretty easily, honestly.
Yeah.
I think so too. By the end, like Roethlisberger was completely washed. He was completely washed. Anyway, that's a fun little hypothetical.
Yeah, whoever plays Minnesota, I think will probably win. The problem with whoever's going to be the 7th seed, Matt, is you're right. That team will almost certainly lose because they have to play either Buffalo, Kansas City, or Cincinnati. And those are the teams that we consistently say are the 3 most terrifying teams to meet in the playoffs. So,
right. If one of those teams gets upset round 1, I'd be pretty shocked. I don't know if they'll probably beat the Vikings. I don't know if I'd say the Vikings will like just likely lose in the first round, but
unless it's to like the Giants
can roll into Minnesota and have a shot at the end. They can have a shot at the end. They will have a chance to win the game.
The Vikings will make sure they will give you a fighting chance.
That is what is likely.
I guess that's
at the
fair.
end of the game, you will most likely control your own destiny.
Are there any playoff? This is kind of unrelated, but are there any playoff matchups that you guys particularly want to see? There's one in mind that I'm looking at that's very possible. I want to see.
Like in the first round?
Oh,
or just in general?
I really want Packers Vikings in the first round. I really, really want that to happen. My interest in the season has been renewed now that the chances of this are there again. Because if the Vikings beat the Packers, I really won't care, because the Packers, I wrote off this season like weeks ago, and if we make it with a shot to beat them, I'll be okay. But if the Packers can beat the Vikings after this like 14 or 15 win season they're about to have, that would be awesome. Like, that would be an all-timer.
Would not be better than when the Browns,
I think, that the Packers
obliterated the Steelers in the first round.
It would be like that. But like, they just have everything to gain and nothing to lose in the playoffs if they make it. So I really want a shot at this Vikings team to send them home in the playoffs. And I honestly don't even hate the Vikings anymore. Like, I grew up in Minnesota as a Packers fan. I used to just hate them. And now that I kind of cover every team, and I really am not like, oh, the Vikings, oh, they have this huge winning season, I'm so mad. The only time my hate gets renewed for the Minnesota Vikings is when I go home and I hear Paul Allen's voice on KFAN. I hate Paul Allen, and I pray all the like my friends who are Viking fans, like, I'd honestly like to see all of them all happy. I'd like to see like the parade down like in Minneapolis for the Vikings winning the Super Bowl. Everyone there who's never seen them win it, like, honestly, I'd be a little happy for all of them. But to imagine Paul Allen calling a Vikings Super Bowl victory makes me throw up in my mouth. And I am a Paul Allen hater. So he's their announcer for people who don't know. He is the announcer for the Minnesota Vikings, and he is just so over the top. He's someone that if you're a Viking fan, you love him. Oh, okay. But if you're not a Viking fan, you just love to hate him, because he's just so over the top. And so obviously he's their play-by-play guy, so like biased isn't shocking, but he loves them so much, and he hates the Packers so much. And I just want to see him fall.
You want to see him in
And I'd
tears.
also like to see a Dallas Philly. I'd like to see Dallas versus Philly. That's the other one I'd like to see. And those are kind of my main two.
Matt, what did you want to see?
Maybe a Buffalo Kansas City rematch.
Oh, I want to see Bengals Chargers.
That's what I thought.
Because
Burrow, Herbert.
Oh yeah, because I think there's pretty decent odds that the Bengals would win that one. And if they did, I mean, oh, come on.
You're preying on Herbert's downfall?
Oh yeah, I don't have anything against
Busted
Herbert. I don't think anybody is wrong about Herbert. I still find it annoying though. It still bothers me. I don't know particularly why, but it's like, Herbert goes out and he has like a 200 yard on 40 throw, 1 interception game. And well, actually it's like, but then like Keenan Allen could have 100 yards and I'm supposed to believe that he just like totally sucks entirely. I've never seen this done with any other quarterback. And I don't know. I don't think it's wrong.
That's because it's a unique situation.
It's like,
Keenan doesn't suck. He's just not an athlete anymore.
And it's like
that Colts game, he just settles in the zone a million times.
Keenan's
that's good.
A really
it's
smart
good that he knows how to do that.
That's fine. That's what he is. Okay.
That's fine.
Well, he's not. Those yards don't count.
You run into a team.
And here's
you
the
run
other
into
thing
the Raiders. No, I'm not saying they don't count. It's just like if you're projecting forward, if you're projecting like where does he rank as a wide receiver? How useful is he? Well, he's useful if you're playing a team that just plays zone. But if you go into the playoffs and there's a team that has the corners to just play press man the whole time, like, do you project Keenan to like have a great game? No. So that's what the Keenan thing is like, can he have a good game? Does he have things he's good at? Yes. But if you're like projecting forward and the talent, but
well,
anyway.
my other problem with it is like, okay, well, it's like a lot of Herbert fans are like, well, obviously, like, Herbert is just so, like, Herbert's not putting up amazing numbers. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect people who don't like watch all 22 and all the film to not think he's that awesome. I don't think it's that crazy. I don't think, he's a little underrated right now. Of course he is. He's not on a good team. But what I can't stand is the idea where it's like, well, obviously Herbert is blah, 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 and everyone should know this, and we all saw this coming, but it's like all of these people who are talking about Herbert like this, and I mean, Theo, you did too, and I'm not saying you're like an idiot for it, but it's like, they were wrong about the Chargers being a good situation. So it's not like the Herbert fan base is just like on like another level of like, oh, we're so much like, no, I mean, it's like I don't disagree. It's like you had to pivot from like, okay, this Chargers team is really good around him to, okay, we start the season, it's not. But then we got to say like, hey, you guys missed on that one.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, I missed on the Chargers situation. Like I
thought they were going to be better,
but they've also been really hurt. I mean, they were the second best offense last year. That's just the case, and it was the same offense.
No injury. Injury is not it. If they were completely healthy, we would be saying the same thing. But you don't like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. You don't like those two receivers. They don't like them.
Right, yeah.
Okay, well then if the receivers were healthy, it would make no difference in terms of like whether or not Herbert got a pass for playing, like putting up bad stats.
Sure. Sure.
I think that's 100%.
So you want to see that?
No, that's a reasonable thing to say. Herbert,
repeat it for me. Repeat it for me one more time. I can't even. I'm so angry right now that you're anti-Herbert.
If the Chargers were completely healthy,
words.
If the Chargers were completely healthy and Herbert put up bad stat lines, would you be like, that's on Herbert? No, you don't think the receivers.
Well, it depends on how he played.
You know what?
If he didn't do, if the tape said that he was doing,
let me rephrase the question then.
Throws and
so do you believe that Herbert's going to do well?
He plays.
Do you believe that Herbert's going to do well next year when the Chargers are healthy with the core that they have right now? Yes. You believe that? So you are pro their receivers. You think their receivers are good, and they were just hurt.
I think Herbert's good.
No, that's not what what we're talking about. We're saying.
I think that Herbert is going to put up. I think that the number. Well, they don't have a path to adding an elite wide receiver to their team. They don't have that path because the draft doesn't have this freak wide receiver who's amazing at the top. Like Quentin Johnston is okay. Like he's got speed and he's tall, but like he's not super technically refined to me, and his catching technique is weird. He reminds me a bit of Kevin White, to be completely honest. So. Well, like maybe they add him, and I'm totally wrong on him. I've been wrong on players before in the draft. So, but he's not someone who, like, to me is Jamar Chase, and I think that like Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think he's like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that, which is good. Like that's a Pro Bowl caliber guy. So I'd like to see him add someone like that. And I think that, but he's not like overwhelmingly this like electric guy to add. But I think if they add someone like that and the guys stay healthy, like Keenan and Williams and, a third guy, I think if they're healthy, it's not horrible. But their offense could be at another level.
I think we've gotten so really far away. All I'm saying is like, so I think that the Herbert stuff, I understand why people are low on him. I think he's really great. I don't think the Herbert people are wrong, but Burrow beating Herbert would be hilarious in the playoffs. And I'm always rooting for Burrow because he plays for Cincinnati. And I think that the Chargers being hurt, their offense being hurt, if they were healthy, people defending Herbert would not be like, actually, Herbert has a really good supporting cast around them. The receivers would still be called very bad. So...
The wide receivers are just they're good. They're like fine. They're good. Yeah. They're like they're good at their specific little thing. Like Keenan's good at his little thing, and Mike Williams is good at his thing. And like together, it's a workable situation. But once one of them goes down, like that's kind of where I'm at. So if they're both healthy and they're both good at their thing, like it's fine. It'll be fine. Like Herbert will play well. He put up 5,300 yards and 41 touchdowns last year when they were both like. It was an amazing season. It was an amazing season. The numbers backed it up. He was top of the league. Everything. The eye test was awesome. Everything. The offense was awesome. It all lined up last year when they were both healthy. And I think that people get a little excited about Keenan and Mike Williams, and they're like, "Dude, Herbert's got like during the whole Dolphins like Tua versus Herbert thing is like, well." like he has Eckler and he has Williams and he has Keenan Allen. It's like, yeah, those are all good players. Like, it's not a bad situation, but like they talk about these guys like it's the same as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and everything. It's like, it's not. Like,
don't you wish
good.
you were just
like
you were on the team of the quarterback that you didn't have to make so many excuses for, who actually knows how to win a playoff game.
Win. Well, here's the thing: is like if Burrow beats Herbert in the playoffs, I'm not even mad at Burrow over Herbert as a take anymore, because I think that Burrow is like taking his game to a new level this year. I think like last year, Herbert was clearly better than Burrow. I live by that. Even though Burrow went to the Super Bowl, I really think that Herbert was like a bit like better than Burrow last year. I do. And I think like last year, like Herbert had the better season. He led the better offense. He put up better numbers. I think the eye test, I think like watching film, he was a bit more impressive because it was a little bit less reliant on like these Jamar Chase, like open go balls. I really think it all aligned for Herbert last year. This year, like if you want to put Burrow, like I think Burrow's playing totally lights out, like at all levels of the field. Like I think he's gotten even better, like at everything. So like I'm not even mad at the Burrow. Last year I was mad at the Burrow over Herbert takes. This year I could care. Like I still am a Herbert fan because he gets a little bit more slander. Like Burrow doesn't really get much slander nowadays. Like I'm sure Bengals fans will be like, "What? Yes, he does, bro." But really, like the whole Joe Shiesty thing, like and like the press conference, like everyone really does kind of love Burrow right now. So I wouldn't be mad. I would like to see it too. I'd like to see it too. I think that that's going to be a modern day like Manning, Brady, like all these like Breeze, Rodgers.
Dude, the number I don't disagree.
Like I'd love to see
the number of quarterback matchups is like, dude, this is like Brady Manning, and then it's like not like that at all. Is hilarious. I don't hate like Herbert Mahomes, either. I literally do think he's a top 5 quarterback. I feel very strongly about it.
Manning Brady is a bit much because Manning and Brady are like the 2 best players ever. Maybe it's like Breeze, Rodgers, or Roethlisberger, Breeze. Maybe
it's like
something like that. I don't know.
Rivers.
But Rivers, Breeze, maybe Peyton and Brady's a bit much.
No,
but at any rate, I also think one more thing, because we're kind of over time. I do think that this matchup, Burrow versus Herbert, would have been more heated last year. I honestly think that Tuanon was like a common enemy for both Burrow and Herbert people. And like, I don't think there's as much. I don't know, man.
If Herbert goes and puts out a stinker against the Bengals and Burrow plays well, even just number wise, and it's not Herbert playing bad, but it's like the play calling's bad and the receivers aren't getting open and the Bengals defense is a lot better. It's not going to look good for the Herbert narratives. Even though I do agree it's not as heated as it was last year. It could be pretty ugly. So I'm rooting for it, I think. Regardless of what happens.
Matt's always rooting for whatever makes Twitter the most exciting.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's just because whatever makes Twitter the most exciting is like the most interesting things. I'm not rooting for like boring stuff to happen.
I want to see.
Blaiden, do you have any matchups that we haven't discussed that you have?
The only thing I want to see is Jalen Hurts win a Super Bowl, man. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
So you want to see like Philly versus, you want their path to be like Washington, New York, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and then they play like, I don't even know who.
And then they play like Jacksonville.
The Jags in the Super Bowl.
Honestly, the Chargers.
The Chargers.
Some really easy path.
For sure. No, but I do think the Bengals Chargers is a good matchup to watch for. Though it could really, the Chargers just running all their like check downs and drag routes could really screw them over in a game like that. Just
Cowboys versus Eagles.
Just like trying to keep up with like a Jamar Chase like go route or a T Higgins like 50-yard on your head touchdown, and then you throw like a drag route to Keenan Allen to respond. It's just that's like the most likely scenario I see happening.
Well, the Chargers defense has been playing so good recently. Like the Chargers defense has really been
T Higgins catches
these
everything.
Past couple weeks.
And Jamar Chase will break 4 tackles on. He will break off one. So that's at least 2 touchdowns there. But yeah, I don't know. Those are both good match. The Chargers, Bengals, and Cowboys, Eagles, I think are both great matchups. You know,
I like Panthers, Cowboys as well. I think just talking about that on Twitter for a week before the inevitable happened would be hilarious. I think playing like the ignorant Panthers fan who is like sure they're going to win would be a
that would
fun
be
moment.
great. It would be.
I want to see the Cowboys Eagles NFC Championship game. That would be fun.
We haven't seen the Cowboys and Eagles play all year where both quarterbacks have been healthy. First time it was Cooper Rush.
That's what I'm rooting for. I want to see them both.
Second time it was Minshew.
Yep. It would be horrible to go the whole year without seeing the Dak versus Hurts, Cowboys, Eagles with the Super Bowl on the line. Oh my God. I wouldn't care who wins. That's something that's like fun for me to say as someone who doesn't care if the Cowboys or Eagles go to the Super Bowl. But like if I was a Cowboys or Eagles fan, it would almost not even be worth it for the chance. Cause like the stakes would be so high. If you lost, you would never, ever, ever hear the end of it. It would be crazy. No, that's the main thing I'm rooting for.
That would be the most electric championship game other than like Bills Chiefs rematch, I guess, or like Bengals Chiefs rematch. But yeah, before we get out, we have to give our light praise to Luka Doncic, aka the NBA's equivalent of Baker Mayfield. For having
you said that.
Very far callback. Shout out if you remember that. Luka's different, man. And I honestly think I wonder how this saga is going to end. That's the only, like, I'm not going to be able to say anything about Luka you don't already know, but I'm interested about the Dallas saga. They're the 7th seed right now. I think it's hard to be much worse than that. I know the West is close. It's hard to be much worse than that with a player as good as Luka on your team. I don't know if I'm like looking out at the NBA world and I'm like, there's the option for them to go become a contender. There's the move they need to go make.
Yeah. I mean, who's the second best player?
I agree. I'll just say
right now.
Dinwiddie.
Wood.
It's kind of a mix.
Yeah.
Depends on the night. Luka is the first and second best player, and then
first, second, and third best player, and is also the best man off the bench.
Since last year's playoffs, I've kind of soft launched the Luka best player in the league narrative, and when we talked about the NBA earlier, I think I listed him as MVP, and I'm never someone who is gonna like completely like go all in and be like every day on Twitter, Luka this, Luka that. This guy's the best, because there's a lot of guys at the top who are all in a tier. Jokic is playing at he should probably win 3 MVPs in a row. So like he could obviously be the best player. Giannis could be the best. Embiid could be the best. But Luka, I don't know, man. He is just consistently putting a pretty bad team on his back and doing the most lucrative things I've ever seen in my life, and lucrative shots and just situations that he gets them into, like them in the Western Conference Finals, them winning that game when teams were like 0 and 13,128 in like those situations in the fourth quarter before him. Like he to me is just a prodigy and the best in the league. So that's kind of my take, and it's kind of always been the take. But once Giannis will have like a 50, 20 and 10 night now, and then I'll be like, well, maybe, and then he'll have like 10 blocks and some ridiculous defensive night as well. And then I'll be like, well, Luka can't do that on defense. Maybe it is. And then Jokic will be the best passer ever and, be crazy valuable all the time because he never makes any mistakes.
Or something crazy.
And then I'll be like, well, maybe it's Jokic. And then Embiid will drop the Giannis game. And then I'll be like, who knows?
There's a big 3. There's a pretty clear big 3 in the NBA right now.
It's big like 5, I'd say. Luka, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic, Tatum. Maybe you could throw Tatum in that at this point, but who knows?
Getting up there.
It's getting up there. But props to Luka. First 60-20-10 game ever.
LaMelo.
De'Aaron Fox. Obviously.
My little cousin got a LaMelo Ball jersey for Christmas.
That's
He's not
awesome.
a Hornets fan.
Shout out Theo's little cousin.
Yeah.
Common Theo's little cousin W.
Yes.
But yeah,
he's a LaMelo fan.
W. But that pretty much wraps things up. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will be back to recap some of these games after this weekend. Hope you all had a very happy holidays. Hope everyone has a great, very happy new year. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the flippity flop.